And that showed a bit of courage, but he was rewarded for his bravery with the perfect volley.
Well, sometimes they can fly into Rose Ed, but that one, back of the net. Well done, son.
Now this looks promising.
What up, what up? Welcome to I Game Around episode 20. Some niggas didn't like that name, but they can eat a dick. Well, I don't think they didn't like episode 20. They probably liked episode 20. We made it! It's like when they talk about in college how, you know, like half of the people that are freshmen drop out, you know, after the first semester or whatever. I feel like when you make it to episode 20, you're actually onto the right path. You're actually continuing your routes and you're moving in the right direction. So as you can see today, I am playing FIFA. Last week it was lacrosse. And I don't care what y'all niggas say, lacrosse, man. Yo, play lacrosse. I think it's like, I don't know, $5 on Xbox Live or whatever. Get lacrosse. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about knowledge is power. Words of wisdom. I wanted to talk about how we need to learn in this day and age, because I think that I saw a meme and I really wish I meant to write it down and then I forgot about it. But it was basically, you'll always think a fish is retarded, or let me not use that word. You'll always think a fish is inferior if he tries to climb up a tree. You know, obviously he's a fish. He's in water. That's how he's gonna, you know, that's how he's gonna survive. That's how he's gonna thrive. He's gonna thrive in water. He's not gonna thrive trying to climb a tree. So I feel like there's certain different avenues and there's certain ways that you have to learn how to be a better productive person. But because you never knew what was your greatest, what am I trying to say? I'm all over the place today. Because you never knew how to learn, you were never able to actually prosper and grow. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do an episode that gives you just different options and different ways to think about how to learn these days. So the very first way is obviously visual. That's watching a YouTube video. You know what I'm saying? That's just looking eye to eye and saying, oh, okay, all right, I get it. And then the other way is reading. You know, obviously you can read a book, you can read a manual, you can read a script. You know, and then there's, the way I normally learn is hands-on. Like, throw me into the fire. Just, you know, give me the little tidbits, give me the little tips and tricks, and then throw me into the fire, and I thrive that way. So if I'm sitting in class and I'm just having somebody talk to me and give me a lecture, I might not be more receptive to that because I need to actually do it myself. You know, like when it comes to the IT world, right? Everybody knows that's my background. That's what I normally do. When it comes to the IT world, I was more inapt to learn by actually fixing a computer hands-on versus somebody telling me about how to fix a computer or telling me about how to install a server or whatever like that. So I feel like you have to just think about what you like to do more. Do you like to read books? Do you like to watch TV? Do you like to, you know, go out and play sports? Like, do you like to be more physically active, or do you rather, you know, take notes, do your research? I think that, that's one of the ways on how you're gonna find your calling a little bit faster by how you learn. Because if you figure out the best way that you learn, you're going to want to learn a whole bunch of things in that same notion. So if I figure out the best way I learn is hands-on, then I want to be hands-on with FIFA. I want to be hands-on with learning how to do the camera. I want to be hands-on with my computer. Versus if I like to read, then, you know, I want to get a manual and I want to read, you know, all about FIFA. I want to read about the history. I want to read about the controls. I want to read everything. Because honestly, when I played lacrosse, I didn't look at it. Oh man, they got a goal on me. Damn, come on, boy, get your stuff together. Anyway, Orlando City in the building, baby. It's magic. Let's make it happen. But anyway, so I just think that, yeah, when I was playing lacrosse, I didn't, you know, pause the game and read the directions. I literally, whatever popped up on the screen, I was like, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. All right, cool. Fuck it. We'll ride out with it. And then I just, you know, played hands on. So we got to go right back because that's how we do it in these streets. But anyway, I got to stop giggling like that. People don't like that. But another way when it comes to learning, besides figuring out the avenue that you want to learn about, is you have to separate the message from the deliverer. You have to separate the message from who's giving it to you. I used to be in a negative space with some people close to me in my life. So whenever they would give me advice or something, I would just ignore it because I was like, man, nigga, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. You ain't living this lifestyle, boy. You don't know what's going on like that in the streets like that with me. So I was always turned off to him. And he might have had great advice, but because I was so negative thinking towards that person, I closed the door off and could have easily missed my blessing, or could have easily missed out on an opportunity because I wasn't listening to the right person. So I feel like no matter what kind of situation that you're in, you always have to make sure that you're only listening to the message, not judging the deliverer based off what they are. Like if a bum walks by, or if you walk by a bum and he's like, yo, you can get some change, and you give him some change, he's like, yo, NASDAQ about to go down 3 points, you might want to sell, blah, blah, blah. You look at him like he's fucking crazy. And he probably is. You shouldn't take stock tips from a bum. But see, that's me being stereotypical, because you never know where he came from. He could have made one more wrong move. He could have been in gambling debts. That's why he, lost his life. That may have had nothing to do with stocks. It's just, he couldn't manage his life. That's why he went downhill. So I'm not saying take everybody at their word. And if somebody randomly gives you advice, you just, oh yeah, I got to go ahead and do that. I got to jump on that. No, I'm saying that you have to listen to the message. So do your research on that stock tip that it gave you and see if it actually could fluctuate to the fact that NASDAQ goes down 3 points. I don't know stuff about stocks, but I feel like NASDAQ goes down and up. I don't know stocks. But anyway, my point is that you have to make sure that you separate the message from the deliverer. Make sure, because you also have to open yourself up to getting messages from different avenues. I mean, you can use it in a sense of, most people like to receive emails. Most people like to receive text messages, right? Some people in this generation, they don't like to actually talk on the phone. So you got to be more inapt to, I want to talk on the phone. And this is metaphorically. This is not physically like, I got to start answering more calls. No, this is metaphorically. Like, you have to be able to open yourself up to taking fax messages, receiving letters, a fucking telegram, like whatever. You just have to open yourself up to more avenues of how to learn and how to receive messages, because you never know where that spark will come from. You never know where that information that you actually needed will come from. It might come from a fax. It might come from a pigeon carrier. You just never know. So if you're always open to learning from different sources and different ways and different avenues, you will always be in the know-how. You will always be able to move forward. But when you close yourself off to I only want to receive emails. If you ain't emailing me, I ain't talking to you. Once you do that, go, baby. I'm actually paying attention more to this game than I was the last game. and we still only have a 20-minute episode, so it's all good. But anyway, so moving on, one of the main quotes that I normally live by. One of the main quotes that I normally live by is, the only difference between a master and a student is the master has failed more times than the student has tried. Basically, that's like the Nike slogan, just do it. You have to actually go experience things for yourself. You actually have to go out there and push yourself further and keep trying and keep trying. I mean, if you've been with me since episode 0, can't even talk. If you've been with me since episode 0, then you see that there's a whole wide range of changes that I've made. I've just been adapting. I've been adjusting. I've been moving. I've been getting guests. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing solo things. I've been making sure that whatever I'm doing is moving in the right direction, because not everything that you want to do is going to work. You will never be able to put a square peg into a circle. You will never be able to put a square peg into a circle. Sometimes you have to adjust your formula. You have to adjust your format. You have to adjust what you're doing to reflect the changes that you're making. You feel me? I don't know if that made sense. Somebody went over your heads because it went over mine. But basically, you have to make sure that you're always trying to adjust, adapt, and adjust, because the market changes. No matter what business you want to go to, no matter what entrepreneurship route you want to take, no matter even what school you want to go to, the market is always changing. There's always going to be fresh textbooks in school. There's already going to be new ways to learn, new formulas that you got to try, new things in general. The same person that graduated in 2006 is probably learning something completely different than somebody that graduated in 2016. It changes. It's the world. The world will always keep evolving and keep changing. So you have to make sure you treat your life in that such where you're always evolving. You're always willing to change. You're always open to fresh new ideas. Because when you're open to fresh new ideas, what's going to happen? You're going to prosper, because you're going to realize you're going to see the turn around the corner, if you will. Some people just drive straight off the edge because they don't see the turn, because they're stuck in their old ways. Like, I just keep straight. That's all I do is drive. All I do is drive, and I'm going to keep straight. Not realizing I got to adjust my route and I got to turn, It's like when you're going somewhere for the very first time and you're GPSing it. When you make a wrong turn, are you just, I went the wrong way. All right, it's time to go back home. I ain't going there no more. No, what do? You make a U-turn. You go around the block, you circle the block and you figure it out. So I feel like that's how you kind of have to treat your life. You have to excuse me, I got the hiccups already. You have to be able to figure out exactly what needs to be done to be successful. And that's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, obviously, but you have to be willing to take advice, take messages. You have to be willing to open your mind up and expand it, because like successful people, any successful person will tell you, I started off with this and I ended up with that. I wanted to do this. I wanted to end up with that. Take Diddy, for example. All Diddy wanted to be in the beginning was just Heavy D's manager. You know, that's when he started out with. He saw Heavy D and he was just like, yo, I want to manage you, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he started off as an intern with Uptown, and then obviously blew up to the Diddy that we know today. So you just start off on a path. You start off with a goal. And while you're reaching that goal, you open your mind up to learn other things. And those other things will then prosper you into not only fulfilling your goal, but setting higher goals. And then always make sure your expectations meet your goals. Don't set no, I'm going to lose 100 pounds by the end of the year, knowing that you're not going to do it. And then your expectations are low. So your expectations are low. So of course you're not really going to disappoint yourself if you always keep your expectations low. So I feel like you got to make sure that you're always keeping your mind open. You're always expanding it. You're always making sure that any message that anybody sends you gets delivered. Whether you take that advice or not, whether you go that route or not, as long as you keep your mind open to those messages, you will always be able to prosper. You will always be successful. And I think you'll be happier in life. Because honestly, once I started opening up my, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Yeah, boy. Yeah, get that shit out of here, nigga. Once I started opening in my mind and expanding more and listening to, okay. Yeah, get that out of here. Sorry, I had to make sure. Anyway, let me try to say it one more time. Once I tried to open in my mind and I started listening to messages and I started receiving fax mails and, horse carriers or whatever, once I started receiving more messages, it expanded my mind and it made me more happier, because now I'm able to take people at their word. I'm able to take people at what they're doing. Wow. That's what I get for bragging. That's what I get for bragging. That's why you don't brag. Anyway, so I was able to actually just settle down and just have a more positive attitude towards people, because I think I've been negative for a while towards people. I was like, nigga, you don't know what you're talking about, man. F out my face with that BS. You ain't as smart as me. You don't know as much as me, man. You ain't in the same lane as me. How you gonna tell me how to do IT? How you gonna tell me how to, drive a car if you got a motorcycle? You feel me? It's like you figure since somebody's not in your lane, they can't know anything about your lane. When in turn, they might not be able to know, but they might have an idea outside of your lane that actually incorporates your lane, if any of that makes sense. My point is that you have to make sure that you're open to those kind of suggestions. You have to make sure that you're open to those kinds of messages, because otherwise you're just going to be spinning in circles and you're just going to be going in the same path and not even realizing that you're making the same mistakes and you're stuck in the same cycle. Then you're going to tell yourself, well, why am I failing? Why am I failing? It's because you're not expanding your mind. It's because you're not trying to learn. You're not trying to come at the problem from a different angle. You're just trying to hit it head on. You're trying to put that square peg into the circle. And once you do that, you do that. Got another go, man. God damn ridiculous. But anyway, another thing is also make sure you put value in your passion. Don't put it in a dollar amount. Put it in your passion. Because if I tell you, yo, I'm going to give you $60,000 a year, to do, to be a garbage man, right? You're thinking, oh, that's $60,000 a year. I mean, that might not be a lot to some people, but it's a lot. Well, you know what? I'll even give the New York equivalent, since obviously it's the cost of living is a whole different in New York. $120,000 a year to be a garbage man. You're like, oh man, that's $120K. I can do this, I can do that, I can ride in this, I can ride in that. And then you get that job and you ended up hating it. So now every day you're going to work hating yourself because, yeah, the money's good, but you're not happy with the job. So when you start putting the value in your passion as to, well, what do I like to do? What do I actually like to do in my free time? When you start putting value into that, then you might be able to take that, receptionist job for $50,000 a year. And while you're working that receptionist job, you can then have more free time to work on what your actual passion is. So I feel like you have to make sure that you put the passion and your Put the value in your passion. Make sure you put the value in your passion and not in a dollar amount. Because when you put in a dollar amount, you will be a slave to that dollar. Or I'll give you extra 10 grand if you start doing this. I'll give you an extra 5 grand if you come in, and start staying 2-3 hours late. And then you're just a slave to the money. Don't ever be a slave to the money. Be a slave to your passion. Be a slave to your happiness. Be a slave to what you consider success. Yeah, and that's it. All right, so anyway, moving on. Another thing is, most people say, or not even most people, but, obviously people know Charlamagne came out with a book that said black privilege, opportunity comes to those who create it. Some people don't know how to create those opportunities. Like, if you want to take his job, for example, if you want to be a broadcaster, you want to be on the radio. You can't just create a radio station and, have a whole bunch of sponsors and, have a whole bunch of events and things like that. You have to work your way up to that. So when somebody says create your opportunity, I think that means create the opportunity to have an opportunity. And what that means is, if I want to be a broadcaster, then I need to go to my radio station and start as an intern. Or even if they're not hiring, because I tried to do that and it didn't work out for me, but if they're like, oh, we're not hiring right now, then just hop online, get on a podcast, start messaging people with other podcasts and things like that. Like, figure out, what is it about being a broadcaster that you like the most? Do you like talking? Do you like doing the interviews? Do you like discussing music? Do you like having a playlist? Do you like playing your favorite songs? Figure out what part of being a broadcaster is your favorite and go after that lane. So if your favorite is, oh, I like to do the Midnight Storm hour. I like to play all the slow jams and things like that. Get on Spotify and create a playlist and then share that playlist and then start posting it up. Start telling your friends about it. Like, yo, when you're ready to get your girl in the mood, listen to my playlist. Just start somewhere. You have to create an opportunity to get you an opportunity. I feel like if you just, hey, man, I tried at the radio station. It didn't work out. I guess this isn't my dream. I scored again. Ridiculous. I guess this isn't my dream because it didn't work out with a radio station. It's like, no, start off smaller. Maybe the radio station was too big. So maybe you need to scale it back a little bit and start from ground zero. Start with like a playlist or something like that. And then if you start to get popping a little bit, just most of these, and I don't mean to be rude, but most of these DJs at the radio stations, they're not that popular in their city. It's not like only New York, with Hot 97 and, Envy, like those are the big ones. But in these other cities like Chicago, like Miami, the radio station DJs aren't having, 1 million plus followers. So you can easily DM them and, give them your playlist and say, hey, man, you might listen to my playlist and, you might want to post about it or something like that. Like, never be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to ask somebody to do something. The worst that they could tell you is no, right? Like, if I ask somebody to be on this podcast, what's the worst they can do? Tell me no, eat a dick, fat nigga. Like, eat a dick, fat nigga is kind of wild to tell somebody. But I'm just saying, like, they can't tell me anything that's going to detriment me and going to deny me what I think I deserve. Everybody gets turned down at some point in their life. Like, I always use a Jay-Z reference. He was shopped around. It wasn't just an easy, this is reasonable doubt, let's make it happen. Like, you get denied, and that's when you adapt and you adjust and you make changes. And then those changes will then launchpad you into stardom, if you will. It'll launchpad you into success. You make the changes that you feel are necessary to get people to hear your message. You feel me? That's kind of just, that's the end of the story. No. That's how it is. And then after all of that, right? After all you learn what to do, you're starting to implement it, you're creating opportunities to get you an opportunity. You got to leave room for magic. You can't just, oh man, I'm going to plan it like this. You can't plan it to the minute. You feel me? You can't plan it to the second. You can't plan your whole 24 hours. You have to leave room for magic. You have to make a plan and then use those adjustments to leave room for magic, because you never know what'll happen. You never know who, like, I'll never know who listens to this podcast, right? Like, obviously you can see people in your comments and things like that, but I don't know who listens to it. So the right person at the right time could listen to it and, put that person on to somebody else, and then they put them on to the podcast, and you just never know. So you always have to be open and ready and open-minded and free to think that something outside of my control can happen that'll boost my, career. So if somebody like, let me see, some no-name person that, like some exec, right? Like I don't know why, but some people don't know who Andre Harrell is. Andre Harrell was a CEO and co-founder. I don't know if he was co-founder or just a founder of Uptown Records, which Uptown was Mary J. Blige, Jodeci. That's what Diddy got to start. Heavy D. Father MC, Christopher Williams, I'll Be Sure. List goes on. But he started that. So Andre Harrell could hit one of y'all. You know, y'all are a rapper or whatever. If Andre Harrell hits you in a DM and is like, yo, I think you're talented. You know, I want to help you out. And you're like, oh, I don't know what the fuck this is. Fuck that nigga. Like, why wouldn't you? A, you need to do your research on people that offer to, you know, help you out. And then B, you also need to make sure that you're not just dismissing somebody just because they don't have a lot of followers. I don't know how many followers he has, but if you only had like 5,000 followers, why would you, you know, just assume he can't help you? Maybe he's just not on Twitter like that. Not every person that can help you has 1 million followers. Not every person has 10,000 followers. Some of the most people that can help you, some of the higher level executives that can actually help you, aren't even on Twitter. They're not even on Facebook or Instagram. They're just chilling. They're doing their thug thizzle. So you always have to make sure that you keep your mind open, you keep the messages flowing, and you make sure that you find out that what's your best way to learn. Like, how can I learn the best? And then you implement that into what your goals are and what it takes for you to be successful. Once you do that, boom, pop. I wish I had, you know, the drop for the bomb, but we ain't that fancy yet. So anyway, as always, I leave y'all guys with a quote. So you know what? I'll say it. So one of the main reasons I'm starting to keep my episodes short is because I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to knock the message. I don't want to go off on a tangent. I don't want to have to end up talking about something completely different. This podcast has now been turned into a motivational podcast. This is, how can I get my goals? How can I get my life started? How can I feel like I'm doing my part in life that I feel like I should be doing? Like, this is what I want my podcast to be about. So when I start to bring people on here now, it's no longer about, you know, how was it in the mixtape days, or I was about to say rape culture, but that's why I don't mean to say like I don't care about rape culture. I just mean to say that it's now more about, what are your goals and how did you obtain them? What were some of your goals starting out and how were you able to reach them? What kept you motivated in that space? How did you learn? How did you figure it all out? That's what I want my podcast to be. So that's why I'm going to start keeping everything under 30 minutes. That way it leaves room for you to keep watching it and rewatching it, and you don't have to go through or hear any stories that you don't want to hear. It's strictly just about staying motivated and being motivated and using that motivation to succeed in life. Holla. All right. So anyway, like I said, we reached the end of the show. We made it to episode 20. We moving out here and we are shaking. So let me go ahead and leave y'all with this quote. Yeah, I can't believe the fucking outro always gets me. When I gotta read something, that's when it fucking fucks me all the way up. Based upon the strength of a nation, conquer thy enemy, armed with education. Protect yourself, reach for what you want to do. Know thyself, teach by what you've been through. What's that mean to you? Think about it.